Hello everyone, my name's Jay and my husband Luciano is behind the camera. Welcome to Jay and Luciano's Kitchen. Today we're going to share with you a recipe for spaghetti squash lasagna, which requires 2 large spaghetti squash as you see here. I'm going to show you how to cut the squash and prepare it. Okay, so the first step in this process is cutting the squash. Sometimes the outer shell can be pretty hard, so you need really sharp and a really big knife. I always cut this portion of the squash off first because this stem can be like a rock. So your knife probably won't go through that very easily. And this gives you a surface to lay it down flat and start to cut. So here's the sharp, really big knife. I just try to cut it in the center as much as I can. Start the cut. And here we go. We have a cut spaghetti squash. Now the second step is going to be, we need to get all these seeds out. This spaghetti squash is quite thick, so it's going to require some additional cooking time. So the best way to get the seeds out, I've found, is as large a serving spoon as you have, not too sharp an edge, and just take a bowl, and we're going to scrape the inside out just like this. So you want to get this center down to a bare core. So now, as you can see, we have both of them all scraped out, so we have 4 ready to go. Now some recipes want you to coat the inside with olive oil or some kind of spray. Later on I'm going to tell you why we don't do that here. I've used several recipes over the years, and for me this works best in this situation. So we're going to spray a pan, non-stick oil, and just place these cut side down, and these are again quite large. You notice they're over 1 inch thick, as I may have mentioned before. That means a longer cooking time. If they're 3/4 or less, you can cut that time off by 10 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and stick these in an oven, 325 convection oven or 375 traditional oven temperature for 45 minutes. And we'll see you after they're cooked. Okay, so we're back again, and the spaghetti squash is out of the oven. It's cooled off for 15 minutes, so it's a little bit warm for my hand. So I suggest you use an oven mitt. So here we go. I go laterally with the squash. Just like this. It comes out and it looks just like spaghetti. So we continue that process until the shell is completely cleaned out. Now, it hasn't cooked for so long that the shell is too soft and you start raking out the shell. Sometimes if it's too thin and you cook it too long, you might get some pieces of the shell that you really don't want to have. So let me finish this up. I'll go over the ingredients and we'll set it up for making it a real dish of lasagna. Okay, so after a few minutes, we've got all 4 halves of the spaghetti squash taken out into this bowl. So as you can see, it's very spaghetti-like. And the next procedure is we need to get a lot of the water out of this. So this is what I do. I take about half of it, put it on towel, another towel on top. Now, like I said before, this is a combination of different recipes I've seen. And this is the one that has worked best for eliminating most of the water in out of the spaghetti squash. And the more you take time to do this, the better it's going to come out. So I use this rolling pin, and I just work the squash over and over again. Maybe with my hands, just whatever it takes to get this flattened out and get the moisture, the water out. This is the first time it's been done. Clean towels, thick towels. Now you can see here how the squash is perfectly flat and a lot of the water is missing. You can just fluff it back up, and that's what you're going to use for your layering for the lasagna. Okay, so we're kind of in the final phase of getting the moisture, water out of the squash. And something I want to show you, this is kind of like the cheese makers would do, is you roll this up into a ball, just force the water out through the towel, and you'll see it come on the countertop. I don't know if you can get a close-up of that, but the water's coming out on the countertop. Just press down as hard as you can, as long as you can, until that water becomes less frequent or not at all. I don't think you'll ever get all the water out. So here we go. This is the last phase. So now I'm going to share with you the ingredients in the recipe to make this all come together. We already did the spaghetti squash, which is here in the bowl. It's cooled off, ready to use. We also have 2 cups of ricotta cheese right here. We have 1 cup of Parmesan cheese, shredded. 1 large egg. 1 can of drained and washed black beans. We have 2 cups of marinara sauce. 2 cups, or in this case, a container 5 ounces of feta cheese. 2 8-ounce packages of thick sliced mozzarella. We have 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. This is something we make here at home. And we're going to do a tablespoon of mesquite seasoning for the beans. We have garlic cloves, finely minced, and 3 tablespoons of olive oil here, used for the garlic and onions. So now we're back with the ingredients. I've mixed the egg, the ricotta cheese, Parmesan together in this bowl. That's going to be one of the layers of the lasagna. Over here we have cooking the onions, and they're just starting to brown a little bit. So I'm going to add the garlic and let that cook for a couple more minutes. I don't want to brown the garlic. I want the garlic flavor to come through to the dish. So that's kind of the way it looks so far. So the garlic and onion is ready to go. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of the seasoning to the black beans. And this is from Costco. It just kind of gives an earthy flavor to it all. Smoky, earthy. In replacement for beef, it's a nice addition. So I'm just going to add this to the skillet and let it warm up for a couple minutes, and we'll be ready to go with the filling procedure. Okay, so we're ready to do the layering process. We've got some non-stick spray. We've got a 9x12 pan here. Just cover the bottom of this and the sides. We're going to do our first course of spaghetti squash. Now, this needs to be covering the entire bottom of the dish. Not thick, but just enough to cover the bottom. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the cheese that has the egg in it. This has Parmesan. I'm going to use this whole thing up, the mix that we in the recipe. Put it all down. That's the second layer. Spread it out. And then the third layer is going to be the beans. Or if you're not wanting a vegetarian dish, it can be a keto dish with hamburger, ground beef. And spread this all out like this. And what we had on the cooking here on the oven before was the beans, the onion, and the garlic. So this would be a replacement for the meat. Spread that around. This is the other half of the Parmesan and feta cheese. We're going to add that on top of the bean. Just half of it. That kind of helps soak up the sauce, or helps soak up the moisture from the rest of the spaghetti squash. We're going to put on top of that. So we actually have like 3 or 4 layers of different things here. This doesn't have to completely cover everything, but if you've got enough, that's really good. And we do have enough. So the next layer is going to be the sauce. So this includes the other quarter of the mozzarella and feta cheese and the red sauce. So just cover this up until it covers the entire top. If it doesn't cover the entire top, that's why I have 2+ cups. We'll just add some more red sauce to the top. Didn't quite make it. Okay. So here we have the entire covered lasagna package, and we're going to use the cheese left over just to sprinkle the top of it. When that cooks, it'll look very red and white. So there you have it. We're going to go in the oven for 35 minutes, and we'll see you then. Okay, so one last thing I want to share with you about this dish. This is a piece that's taken out of the refrigerator that was left overnight. As far as leftovers go with these casseroles, the flavor just intensifies.